Florida, the drunk uncle of New York City, the Sunshine State. For rail fans, it's known for Plant City, Brightline, Amtrak Silver Services, Tri-Rail, Allen Smith, CSX, and the Florida East Coast Railroad. While there are a ton of options for rail fans and commuters in Florida alike, mostly South Florida because North Florida is neglected like no tomorrow, most people don't know about the interesting past of Florida's railroading history. So, since I was a little curious and I had nothing else better to do, I wanted to discuss possibly the most unique streamliner that Florida once had with you all. Ladies and gents, this is the story of the city of Miami. So imagine yourself in Chicago during the late 1930s, planning a vacation with your wife and kids to Miami. You were thinking of flying since there were no direct trains that go directly to Miami yet. During the late 1930s, streamlining was at its absolute peak, especially within the Chicagoland area. Thousands of trains departed from Chicago's 6 terminals every single day, including one that would later come in the 1940s, ran by the famous Illinois Central Railroad. This would become one of the railroad's most unique trains. In 1939, the first streamliner to reach Florida was called the Champion, running from New York City to St. Petersburg, operated by the Atlantic Coast Line Railroad. But this was only one of 4. The other 3 were the Pennsylvania Railroad Southwind, the Florida East Coast Dixie Flagler, and finally the Illinois Central City of Miami. All these streamlined trains competed for the fastest service to one of Florida's major cities. The city of Miami in this case went from Chicago down to Miami, as the name implies. In some ways, it can be strongly argued that no other streamliner defined the South like the city of Miami. The train was such a radical departure even for most other streamliners introduced up to that point that it was nearly in a class all by itself. The overall layout and the presentation of the Miami was not a result of the famed industrial designer like Raymond Loewy, Otto Kohler, or Henry Dreyfuss at all, but rather the EMD Locomotive Company and Pullman Standard. When the city of Miami was inaugurated on December 18, 1940, it utilized a single EMD E6A streamlined diesel locomotive pulling 6 or 7 coaches. The entire train was painted in an orange and palm green scheme with scarlet stripes and lettering. Up to and including this new train, the Illinois Central seemed to have difficulty deciding on a paint scheme for their streamlined trains. The Green Diamond, Illini, Miss Lou, and now the City of Miami were all painted in their own distinct paint schemes. While the city of Miami may have been officially owned by the Illinois Central, it took no less than 4 total railroads for it to reach its intended destination, including the Central of Georgia Railroad, the Atlantic Coast Line Railroad, and the Florida East Coast Railroad, later became the Seaboard Airline. The train had a really weird way of getting to Miami. It would leave Chicago Central Station at 8:40 a.m. and then follow the present-day Metro Electric District up until Homewood, Illinois, when it continued to Kankakee at around 9:35 a.m. It then made a pit stop at Champaign-Urbana an hour later and made a few more pit stops before making a major stop at Carbondale at 1:35 p.m. It would make one final pit stop in the state of Illinois at North Cairo Station before crossing into Kentucky, making its only station stop at Fulton. It then crossed into Tennessee, making its only station stop at Jackson. Same case with Mississippi and Corinth Station. It would arrive at Birmingham, Alabama at 10:17 p.m., where it went on to trackage owned by the Central of Georgia Railway. Georgia and Alabama were traced over entirely overnight, making another stop at Albany, Georgia at 3:40 a.m., now on the Atlantic Coast Line's trackage. It made its last station stop in Georgia at Waycross before arriving at Jacksonville, Florida at 7 a.m., which by this point the train is now operating on the Florida East Coast Railroad's tracks. It followed this railroad's right-of-way to Miami, making stops at St. Augustine, Bunnell, Daytona Beach, New Smyrna Beach, Titusville, Cocoa Rockledge, Melbourne, Vero Beach, Fort Pierce, Stewart, Hobe Sound, West Palm Beach, Lake Worth, Delray Beach, Boca Raton, Pompano, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood Beach, North Miami, and Miami Central Station until 1963, when the Florida East Coast went on strike, halting all passenger and freight traffic. Post-1963, it followed the Atlantic coastline's right-of-way once again on its route down to Miami, making stops at D-Land, Sanford, Orlando, Winter Haven, West Lake Wales, Avon Park, Sebring, Okeechobee, West Palm Beach, Lake Worth, Delray Beach, Deerfield Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood Beach, Hialeah, and Miami. The total route length for the northbound trip was 1,494 miles covered in 31 hours flat, while the southbound trip took over an hour longer, covering 1,544 miles in 32 hours and 25 minutes. But you're probably wondering, wait, both routes have a few of the same station names. Why is that? Well, by 1955, the ACL's Champion began hauling through cars for the city of Miami and Southwind Streamliners to and from Chicago on its Jacksonville to Tampa/Sarasota leg via Orlando and its Jacksonville to St. Petersburg section via Gainesville and Ocala. After the 1963 Florida East Coast Railway strike, the city of Miami and all ACL Miami-bound trains were rerouted through Orlando via ACL to Auburndale, where they crossed over the Seaboard Airline rails to reach West Palm Beach in Miami. The SCL continued a section through Gainesville to St. Petersburg and a Sarasota section through Tampa. The St. Petersburg and Miami sections were split and joined at Jacksonville until Amtrak arrived on May 1st, 1971. The only engine change to occur in this route was at Jacksonville, where the Illinois Central E6A number 4000 was exchanged for the Florida East Coast EMC E3 number 1001 to Miami. Unfortunately, this original version of the Miami only lasted about 6 years when it was replaced with the chocolate and orange scheme in 1946. In 1950, the Illinois Central purchased new equipment, upgrading the train in general. Much of its success, as with the Atlantic Coastline and Seaboard Airline trains, was due to the market and region in which it served. Folks are always looking to get away from the harsh winter weather on an annual basis. Unfortunately, when Amtrak was inaugurated in 1971, they elected not to keep the train and canceled it in favor of the South Wind. The city of Miami made its final farewell run on April 30th, 1971, just a day before Amtrak's inauguration. Under Amtrak, the South Wind departed Chicago Central Station in the morning and arrived at St. Petersburg or Miami late afternoon the following day. Total trip time was 33 to 34 hours, depending on the endpoints. The itinerary varied slightly, whereas Van Station in Logansport, Indiana, was the West Central Indiana stop for the earlier PRR version of the train. Amtrak made Lafayette Station the West Central Indiana stop. On November 14, 1971, Amtrak renamed the train to the Floridian and changed it to a 2-night schedule. Trains would leave Union Station in the late evening and arrive in Florida in the morning of the third day. Unfortunately, due to Amtrak losing a lot of money in the early years, the Floridian was discontinued in 1979, and since that year, there has been no direct trains from Chicago to anywhere in Florida, at least for now. I've been hearing that Amtrak wants to combine two of its famous routes into one just to have an old route to Miami back. They want to combine the Capital Limited from Chicago to DC and the Silver Star or Silver Meteor from New York City to Miami for a direct Chicago to Miami train via Washington, DC. Will Amtrak actually go through with this? I'm not sure yet, but as of right now, it's only a rumor. Today, the Miami region is currently served by Tri-Rail's commuter line, Brightline, and Amtrak's Silver Meteor and Silver Star. All of these trains operate on a daily basis, so if you're looking for a fast way to and from or around Florida, these are really good options. The city of Miami was definitely a step away from what any railroad is used to, especially in the streamlining universe. It really was unique in a lot of different ways, from having its own paint scheme completely separate from the norm, having an incredibly complicated route, and overall just being an incredibly popular train amongst travelers. This has been the story of the Illinois Central's City of Miami, Florida's incredibly unique streamliner. I truly hope you all enjoyed this video, because honestly I had a ton of fun making this, and if you did, I'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed, as it would mean a ton to me. Again, thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Also, I just opened up a Discord server a couple of weeks ago. I would love it if you guys joined. Link is in the pinned comment. Thanks.